we move on to react to Rodri. He's gonna miss the rest of the season due to ACL injury. Um, Obviously, massive blow for Manchester City. This is a Rodri player that's in the Ballon d'Or discussion, and rightfully so. How important he's been for Manchester City. You saw the statistics from last season in terms of their win-loss ratio with him on the pitch and not on the pitch, and then him being that important catalyst for Spain, his first major international tournament where he is that number 6 for Spain, that he can be the conductor and the composer of the midfielder and the one that dictates tempo and holds it down in the midfield. His first opportunity to really play that role, in tournaments in the past, there's been Busquets, and he's had to play a makeshift role in the midfield or even play center half at times to, still be involved with Sergio Busquets still being in there. Now he's playing, his natural roles for Spain, and then they're immediately profiting with winning European championships and doing it in a super fashion as well. This is a guy that's going to be in the Ballon d'Or, race for this season, and rightfully so. And despite him not playing an exciting position, a position that is exciting and very appealing to watch, and it's not a position that people watch football games and say, I want to watch Rodri play. He's not that kind of player, but the importance of him is far beyond, far beyond, most other players in the world, if not, 99% of all the players in the world. He's just that, he's just that important. He's just that great. And he makes the City team what they are. I do think last season, statistics is, it's something. Look, I think City eventually is something they're just gonna have to deal with, and they'll recover. This is there's no excuses when it comes to Manchester City team. This is a team with extreme quality and extreme bench, and if anyone is supposed to recover from losing a player, an important player, is Manchester City. They have the squad to do it. Now the weird thing about Manchester City is, they don't naturally have a player that plays in the Rodri role. If you're looking at, so far the start of the season, before that Inter Milan game, the Rodri didn't feature, and it's been Kovacic and Gundogan playing that role in midfield with De Bruyne playing above them. Which, Kovacic is not a natural, player in that position that Rodri plays, but him and Gundogan, they, together do the role of De Bruyne. Not of De Bruyne, of Rodri. So last season you talk about the record that City had last season without Rodri, but they also didn't have Gundogan. So look, I don't think this is a loss, yes, and this is something that could potentially open it up for Arsenal, as I was hinting at as the previous segment. But again, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola, if there's any team that should overcome this, it should be them. They should overcome this, and it's something I think that they will figure out. And whether it's not, maybe they need to bring in someone in January that someone that naturally plays that role of, can be a own holding midfielder. If that's necessary, maybe that's might be the answer. But I don't think this is something that's I don't think this is something that should derail City's title hopes or anything. Keep in mind, by the way, this is a Manchester City team that didn't have Rodri in their first. This is the first Premier League game that he started for Manchester City. The opening 4 games, they won 4 games. They lost none. They did it in dominant fashion. They didn't have Rodri play in any of those games. I believe in the Brentford game, he came on as a substitute, but apart from that, he didn't feature. So, so far this season, they have been used to playing without Rodri, because they've wanted, Pep Guardiola wanted to give Rodri that rest, having that deep run into the European Championship, and we know Rodri needs his rest. He came out publicly at the end of last season, not the end, but near the end of last season, saying he needs a rest, which was not something you're used to hearing players admit publicly. And on top of that, also you have the comments that he's been making very recently with the players playing too many games as well. So the rest was needed for him, and he was able to get that. And yeah, then this injury comes, and it's always those injuries are always the trickiest. Whenever there's no contact made by the other team, it's a non-contact injury. Those injuries always seem to be the worst. I see them all the time, and especially in American football, where you see the non-contact injuries. Those are the injuries that are usually seem to be the worst. And it was just that initially with the Rodri injury, initially when I was watching the game and I saw the injury take place, I saw, oh, this could be bad, because of the fact that it was non-contact and his initial reaction. He really looked in pain. He was able to walk off, which I didn't make too much of it. I still thought it could have been torn ACL, but as the game went on, you saw Rodri. He was part of the not part of the celebration, but you saw him on the bench as the camera cut to him. And also, after the game, we didn't hear those immediate reports. And yes, that what happened was City. That goal last minute. That's obviously gonna take over the internet and take over the media and all that, and the questions being asked to Guardiola and all that. But usually when these sort of injuries happen, Guardiola, or the manager, whoever the manager is, with Ter Stegen, when with Hansi Flick and the Ter Stegen situation happens, the manager would come out and say, it's not looking good. It's a very bad injury, something of that sort. I didn't hear that from Pep Guardiola, so it made me gain a little bit of hope that this wasn't that sort of injury for Rodri. Then I woke up the next morning and I see the reports. Devastating blow for Manchester City.